Okay, so we've all seen the snippets and the clips from the game, or well, not the Game Awards, from Summer Games Fest, where we had a gentleman go up on stage and he was wearing a hat that just said "Make FPS Great Again." You know, it wasn't the hat, it's just what's memorable. You know, who cares about a hat? But it was specifically how this guy, the head of the company, tried to frame himself as the savior of first-person shooter games, and then proceeded to fall victim to every pitfall in the book, and kind of ran his game into the ground. So much so that it was unlaunched, which I didn't realize you could do. But they launched the game and then unlaunched it, and now it's back in beta. Who knew that was a thing? So we're gonna look at this video from the one and only Kyra, and see what this whole thing has to say. Okay, we're gonna check it out. But first, thank you to Spec Ops. Gee whiz, my friend. 10 gifted memberships on YouTube. Oh baby. Oh baby. Thank you, Spec Ops. Let's see. Bring it on, Kira. Let's see what we got.
So what up, friendos? It's 2025 and it can be hard for video games to stand out. We are truly living in an unprecedented time of video game saturation. There are more games than ever to play. There are more games that are coming out every single day. The indie game market is flourishing, with gems dropping seemingly out of nowhere. AA studios you've never heard of are releasing Game of the Year quality products. And love it or hate it, the AAA, or as Ubisoft calls it, the quadruple A industry.
Which, again, is just my funny tidbit, is I found out from somebody that this was not even on the script. So, like, Yves Guillemot is speaking at this event at the earnings call, and this is all written down on a piece of paper in front of him, as everything in these earnings calls is, because if you say one thing wrong, it's memed on for years and your stock price can plummet. He says, you will see that Skull and Bones is a full-fledged game. It's a very big game, and we feel that people will really see how vast and complete that game is. And then he set the paper down. So it's really a full, triple, quadruple A games that will deliver in the long run. That quadruple A thing he ad-libbed. He was not supposed to say that. And years later, we still make fun of him for it. It's ridiculous, but it's one of my funnest little anecdotes of just don't ad-lib. Sometimes it's not worth it. It's not worth it. If it wasn't written down, it probably wasn't worth saying it.
Releases bigger games at a frequency that is simply impossible to keep up with. So with this being the case, how could a small company break through the noise? How could they get themselves center stage in the social media discussion and carve out a market for themselves, seemingly out of nowhere? The simple answer is just make a good game, right? Make a game people care about.
You sound insane right now. What are you talking about? No. Unfortunately, though, to be more serious, it is not as simple as just making a good game. It's actually like a good amount of making a good game, and then also like a pretty large amount of luck is part of it too. Unfortunately, that's a big component of it.
Game
like FNAF, Five Nights at Freddy's. Who knew that was going to blow up? Scott Cawthon was about to give up game development and move on in his life, and that was like the last thing he made. And then it got picked up by some YouTubers doing this brand new thing called Let's Plays, and it exploded and turned into a massive thing. Now it's got movies and everything, books and games and merch, and it's ridiculous. But I don't think he had any idea. It wasn't just because the game was pretty good. It was also a good amount of luck, you know?
Game will then market itself. We see this almost weekly. New game releases on Steam, people play it, word spreads, big YouTuber picks it up, some streamers play it, and before you know it, millions of copies sold, viral success. All you need at the start is a great game. But if you're the CEO of 1047 Games, you could instead go a different route. You could pay about $500,000 to get on stage at the Summer Games Fest, look directly into the camera, start squeezing, and shit your pants while maintaining eye contact with the entire audience. 1047 Games took the beginnings of a potential success story of a plucky underdog game studio with the reception of their game Splitgate in the Titan-dominated genre of FPS, and they decided instead of building on the limited success of the sequel, they were going to fuck up their reputation as quickly as possible. Basically speedrunning their game into irrelevance and securing themselves a spot in the video game industry fuck around and find out Hall of Fame. But how did we get here? 1047 Games.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll get to it. I think it's a prime example of not knowing your place within the industry. If you're really good at making smaller indie games or like smaller FPS games like this that are more experimental, appeal to a niche audience, that is, to find success in that is an amazing accomplishment. That's awesome. That does not mean that you can now compete with Call of Duty. Okay. It just doesn't. But I think these guys started to believe their own hype. They liked the smell of their own crap. And then they started to believe that they could come in with like $100 skins and stuff. And if they just marketed it as we're the underdogs, support us, nobody would notice. We'll get to it. My frustration with the Splitgate stuff is that it kind of was built on an assumption that gamers were too stupid to realize what was going on. And that's something that drives me crazy, is when a product is put out or a company treats gamers like we're dumb and have like contempt for us. Or like, no, it's about this, stupid boy. Like it's like the fair game $ thing where it's like, oh no, eat the rich. It's like, but this is for like a $50 to $70 multiplayer game coming from a multi-billion-dollar multinational corporation. What do you mean eat the rich? No, eat the rich. It's just so stupid to me, you know?
Started as a university project by Nicholas and Ian, who you will be seeing much more of in this video. The pair shared a love of FPS games and decided that they were going to make FPS games great again. Using an initial inspiration of the Portal games, they put together a beta that incorporated the Portal mechanic into the first-person shooter genre and released it to the public. Immediately, they saw success, with over 500,000 downloads, indicating they were onto something that could be much bigger than just a simple university passion project. On May 24th, 2019, the game was officially released as an early access title on Steam, attracting a modest but respectable initial wave of almost 12,000 concurrent players. The reviews were mostly positive, people were enjoying the game, and the complaints seemed relatively easy to fix. For these reasons, investors had confidence in 1047's vision, and the studio managed to raise a reported $10 million across the next 2 years. This cash injection allowed for 1047 to scale up their operation, but of course within those 2 years of development, the game had dropped to a relatively tiny population. Fortunately, the game then exploded with an update release in July of 2021. From a max daily population of under 1,000 on Steam to a new peak of 67,000. Just completely out of nowhere. This game was an overnight success. It was all over social media. The biggest FPS content creators and streamers were playing the game. People were truly hyped for what they found to be a fun, refreshing, and exciting experience.
I remember seeing random videos, like even reactionary videos doing reaction content, and they had Splitgate gameplay in the background. And, you know, it really did pierce that mainstream veil for like a week and a half. But it's because like everybody started talking about it. You have a few clips go viral and people play it. The thing is, like, any type of game that's built on a gimmick will have a limited lifespan. Maybe this is like, maybe that's like really, really obvious, but I just think if your game is built on something like the Portals, it's fun for a weekend, but eventually for the vast majority of people, they're going to be like kind of tired and they're going to move on to something else. You have to have a lot more going on than just a really solid gimmick or an interesting gimmick that shakes it up. Because ultimately, like, I remember hearing Splitgate described as, well, it's like sort of like Halo meets Arena meets Portal. It's like, okay, well, we're not describing it as its own thing. It's a combination of other things, you know? It's not like when people talk about Concord, they're like, yeah, it's like an Overwatch clone, but worse. And that's all people are saying. You don't want to be, it's like X. You want to be the X. You know, you want to be the thing. You want to be the thing people are comparing it to and have your own unique ideas that really, really set it apart. And I do think that the Splitgate idea and concept is really trippy and cool and crazy. But I think demonstrably it wasn't quite enough to carry the game in perpetuity, you know?
This, of course, didn't last long. The population halved the next month to 34k and was down to under 10k the month later, and just continued to slip from there. Until the game eventually settled back where it was in the beginning, under 1,000 concurrent players in January of 2023. So despite this initial success, why did the game overall fail over time, especially when this game was designed to be, like the Call of Duties, like the Halo, something that people play for years and years to come? Well, basically, there's no real smoking gun. It isn't like they did something crazy, at least not yet. From my own observations and
That's called foreshadowing.
looking through reviews as well as playing the game, it was just kind of a flash in the pan. It was a game that the developers didn't expect it to be as successful as it was. They wasn't prepared, and the game simply didn't have enough stuff in it to maintain that level of interest. They didn't have the server infrastructure to support the player base, which caused issues with matchmaking, lag, and queues. And then after this settled down, they struggled to keep up with the required content for a game that was live service. Then they filled up the game with bots without telling people that they were bots, making the game feel like a cheap experience when they discovered it. And most importantly, the game just wasn't that great. You know, it was relying heavily on a gimmick that once wore thin, revealed that the game underneath didn't have the legs to carry it further. That same gimmick also resulted in casual players being forced out of the game very quickly, never to return.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happened with me. I still look at Splitgate gameplay and it gives me a headache. I understand why some people could get really, really good at it and have a lot of fun with the setups and open this portal there, do that to there. I can shoot out there, pull them through here, and then I bounce out there. I can understand why some people eat it up, but for me, it's like when I get home from, doing a bunch of stuff, out and about running errands or, hanging out with the kids, or when, maybe not me, I live a very cushy life, if you can't tell, as I sit here at 1:30 in the afternoon on a Wednesday talking about video games. Maybe, the guy that's working an actual job that has he's been working in the oil fields, working his ass off to provide for his family. And he gets home from a long day at work and he comes down, sits down. I'm not sure if he's like, okay, let's play Splitgate. I got to really think this through. Like some people just want to veg out, they just want to veg out. It's a sweaty game, man. It's already hot outside. That's a good way of saying it, Anthony. Yeah, it's a sweaty game. Some people love it for that, but it automatically will start to filter out the more casual gamers who just want something to play with their friends after a long day. It's the appeal of games like Marvel Rivals or Overwatch, where they have a ranked mode for the hardcore guys, and then they have a casual quick queue or custom games and stuff to keep the casual players engaged. And that's why those games have millions of players, because they can appeal to both at the same time. Splitgate never really figured that out.
You can think of this basically like Fortnite building mode in the Battle Royale originally. At the start of the game, at the start of Fortnite, the building was this fun little thing you did to give yourself a bit of cover in the middle of a fight, revive your teammate, build a bridge, whatever it's going to be. But after 6 months, the turbo sweats had taken over, the people who were playing very seriously every day, practicing how to build. And then they could throw together an Eiffel Tower mid-fight in 0.6 seconds. And if you couldn't do that, you were just a bot for them to farm. The skill ceiling moved drastically by this one gimmicky mechanic that didn't translate over into other games. And it wasn't something that common sense made you better at from playing a different FPS or whatever it was going to.
I do love seeing these like OG trailers for for Fortnite, because initially, it's so like, literally look at this. They build a wall and then toss a grenade over the wall. And that was like the extent of what was expected from the build mode. And then you saw what some of these competitive guys were able to do and kids were able to do later. And it just was ridiculous. It was mind melting. But it's why it's also funny that Fortnite saw the biggest spike out of nowhere in players that they had seen in a long time, specifically when they brought a no build mode, because players like me, I never wanted to play any Fortnite. When my little brother would ask, I'd be like, oh yeah, we could do that, or we could play this other game, because I'm like, I just don't want to do the sweaty thing of trying to figure out how to build quickly. And then 9-year-old gets in the lobby and they just frantically, like he said, build an Eiffel Tower in 6 seconds. But the no build mode, it becomes then purely about positioning and gunplay and movement and stuff. And I'm like, okay, I can get behind that. Where it's not just about muscle memory of frantically building stuff. It's about game knowledge and tactical play and stuff. And I like that much more. So yeah, it's finding ways to appeal to a broader audience is key if you want to be successful in the live service space, for sure. Whoops, I'm muted. Sorry.
Whatever it was going to be, a different battle royale game. This was a specific mechanic to the game that had an incredibly high skill ceiling. And that was basically Portals in Splitgate. It was the killer of the casual player. Despite the game falling off incredibly quickly, 1047 decided that the logical course was to make a sequel, Splitgate 2. And this is fair enough, right? I mean, they probably made good money with the first game. They had investors, they had people interested. They knew they could get a player base. They just needed to refine what they had. Better game mechanics, more focus on not the portals, you know, have the portals there, maybe make them a little bit more restrictive. Do something more with the base game and just add on more content that focuses on casually approachable gamers. They could capture a large audience with this because this was lessons they could learn. After all, they had the social cachet, they had fond memories from big content creators, and they had millions of downloads of the first game. There wasn't really anything stopping them, except for this guy.
Hey guys,
It does just give the vibe of like, no, trust me, dude. They're going to love this. They're going to love it. Again, like the whole premise of this was I'm going to show up wearing a t-shirt and sweatpants, and I'm going to be wearing my Make FPS Great Again hat. And we're going to frame this as the launch of our sequel of the little guy that's doing everything great that the big guys like Call of Duty just can't figure out. But again, it's assuming you're too stupid to realize that, for one, they paid $500,000 to get on stage, maybe $250,000. I don't remember. They had a long time slot, so it was probably pretty significant, but paid hundreds of thousands of dollars at the very least to get on stage. This guy is a multimillionaire, probably, if he's getting, you know, he owns the company that received $10 million in venture funding and stuff. And you'll see, I'm sure he's going to discuss the monetization strategies and stuff that they did that was just so hilariously out of touch with what his overall message was. You know, it doesn't take two brain cells to figure out why this is cringe as hell. You know, you can figure it out pretty quickly. But I think the whole thing was built on the premise that players wouldn't connect the dots there. And that was just, it was a miscalculation.
I'm Ian Prue, the co-founder of 1047 Games. And I'm tired of playing the same Call of Duty every year. And I wish we could have Titanfall 3. Splitgate Battle Royale launches free right now, and it's fucking awesome.
He said the F word. That means he's cool.
Ian, the CEO of 1047, couldn't really have fucked up the game's reputation quicker if he'd actually made it his goal to try. The Summer Game Fest is one of the largest platforms to show your game to the world, with a 1-minute trailer costing $250,000. Ian was on the stage for 2.5 minutes, which according to the 2024 pricing, which could be lower, although I'd guess it would be higher, is around $550,000, over $500,000.
Yeah, here's a breakdown. 1 minute, 250,000. 1.5, 350,000. 2 minutes, 450,000. 2.5 minutes, 550,000. While these prices are significant, some quote-unquote free slots are reportedly reserved for smaller non-AAA games, according to Kotaku. These slots are part of the earned editorial placements and are likely given to games with higher potential for coverage or those from larger studios. I mean, yeah, like I think if, for example, Neil Druckmann calls and is like, hey, we'd like to showcase The Last of Us Part 3, I don't think they're going to charge him, you know? I don't think they'll charge him. I think they'll be like, please, we'll pay you. You know, I doubt that they would charge him. On the flip side, like there might be smaller games, like for example, Felt That Boxing, if you remember that. I don't know if they had to pay, because that was one. I think the giveaway is if Jeff says, I've been following this for a long time and I played it myself months ago or a year ago. I think if he says something like that and he has a connection to it, I don't think he's charging them for it. I don't have any secret knowledge of that or any leaked information, but I have a feeling they probably weren't charged because it was like something Jeff just wanted to showcase that he really liked the look of.
Fuzzy shit, show me what you got. What? If you're gonna be champ,
I forgot how much I love this.
Why are you even here? Don't waste my time.
Forgot how much I love this. So I maybe they did have to pay for their trailer slot, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they got it for free. Whereas Splitgate, I mean, it's a live service game. I'm guessing they probably had to pay. I would be genuinely surprised if they gave them their slot for free.
1 minute of this presentation, $50,000, over $500,000. Ian used 1 minute of this presentation standing there in a Make FPS Games Great Again hat, holding a cartoon baseball bat, talking shit about some of the most beloved games in the FPS genre, which is certainly a tactic. I suppose if you've got nothing going for yourself as a selling point, trying to diminish what people would objectively call your betters, the more successful products than yours, is definitely one way to go about things. The next minute and a half of the presentation is announcing Splitgate 2 as a battle royale, accompanied by an Imagine Dragons song, which is hilarious as a contrast when you're talking about, we're not like your ex-girlfriend, you know, we're not like Call of Duty and Halo, we're better than they are. By the way, here's a battle royale and the most mainstream popular pop rock song you can possibly imagine. It was essentially the worst PR damage you could do to your game in the shortest period of time, while also paying $500,000 to do it. The guy...
And, I mean, just to go back to the hat, I don't want to get political or anything, but I think obviously Make FPS Great Again hat invokes thoughts of a political nature because it's been popularized, especially in that format and style, by a U.S. political candidate and now president. And so automatically half of your player base, like half of your potential customers probably are like, hey, that's pretty cool. The other half are like, oh, so he's one of those guys. And now they don't want to support you. Like, it is literally polarizing instantaneously. And I don't understand why you would do that. Like, even if you're the most hardcore MAGA guy, even if you're the most hardcore, I don't remember what Kamala's campaign slogan was, whichever side you're on, I just think it's a bad idea. It's just, why polarize and split your customers in half if you don't have to, you know? It just is dumb. It's dumb.
I essentially paid $500,000 for people to laugh at him online. And if this was some kind of facilitation of a humiliation kink, it would make much more sense than what it is. But
can you imagine? They're like, this is a bad idea. Don't go out there. Everyone's going to make fun of you. Really? You really think so? Yeah, it's going to be terrible. Everyone's going to laugh at you. Everyone's going to make fun of you. It's going to destroy our company. Everyone's going to call you stupid and terrible. Oh. That would make sense.
But in Ian's words, this was the best they could come up with to try and make themselves stand out from the crowd. Which, congratulations, you certainly did that, just probably not in the way you intended.
It is really freaking hard as an independent studio to break through the noise. You go to these award shows. We saw it at TGA's. We had this great trailer, and there's 50 other great trailers, and didn't really have an impact. And so at our biggest stage, coming out of beta, we needed something to grab attention. And the honest truth is, we tried to think of something, and this is what we came up with.
At this point, it would be very easily solved with an apology. It would solve most of the PR issues.
He also keeps saying this is what we came up with, like not taking accountability. It's, we did it. Us. Not me. Us. Joel, thank you for that. I've been playing Mafia, the old country, and I'm loving it a lot so far. The story is great. Do you think there's a chance, I'm assuming it's a chance, they will make another Mafia if this one does well enough? I really hope so. Yes, I do think so. I do think so. I hope they get greenlit for like a big one. We'll talk about it in like the critique that I want to do. There are plenty of opportunities for where they could go with the sequel. I don't want to discuss spoilers or the ending of the game, obviously, but there's plenty of ways that they could go, either for a direct sequel of The Old Country. I know people have been speculating that it could be really cool to do a Mafia game set in like the 1970s, maybe in Vegas or Miami or something. That's been something the Mafia community's talked about for a long time, but I'm not sure where they would go. Either way, I think if this does well, they'll get greenlit for another one. And as we saw in that interview just earlier in the stream, Strauss Zelnick, head of 2K, he said that it's doing really, really well. That's what he said. Which, you know, he's beholden to investors. If it's actually going poorly, he could get in big, big trouble for saying it's going really, really well. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But yeah, I think it's going well enough that they should get another opportunity, would be my guess. Thank you for the super chat. Continuing.
But if that happened, this video would not exist. This could have been an easy fix, something along the lines of, my bad guys, I have a lot of respect for Halo, Call of Duty, and the other games that I shit-talked. It was just a marketing tactic. They are titans in the industry. They've paved the way. We would be lucky to ever be mentioned in the same conversation as them. They're great developers working on this, and, you know, it was in poor taste. And the hat was just a meme, and I fucked up. It is what it is. But instead, he didn't do that, because at the same time, people were discovering the game also had a massive monetization problem. The game had gone live almost immediately, and in the store was an $80 microtransaction. Let's remember what the word micro means here. A microtransaction worth $80 for some cosmetics.
And I wonder if he's going to touch on this.
Obviously, this is not good, and Ian could again have just addressed this in an apology and said, my bad.
Oh, but okay. I just want to circle back to this, because this was a part of it too. It's for one, egregiously priced at $80 for a bunch of cosmetics, but it also was priced at like $145. And then they did an instant discount, even though it had just launched that day. They discounted it by like 45% to make it 80. So it was actually $145. Like, no, you're getting a deal. It's only 80. And this is the guy that's saying make FPS great again. He's saying return to the great days of like Halo ODST, or return to the great days of LAN parties and stuff. Is this anything like that? Like, are you telling me this is more of the same crap? Like, you're not fooling anyone. It's a fake discount tactic, should be illegal. I think it is. I'm pretty sure it is. It was a whole thing at when I worked at Best Buy back in the day. I remember having to regularly change out the sales tags on items because we were so heavily regulated. Certain items could not perpetually be on a discount because that's obviously just the price. If it's always discounted, it's just the price. So, you know, if it's always $80, it's not actually $145 on sale at 80. It's just $80. So when I worked in retail at Best Buy, we had to constantly swap out sales tags and stuff to make sure we were compliant. On the digital storefront side, I guess, I don't know how they get away with it, but I'm pretty sure it's illegal. I'm pretty sure you can't do that. Or at least, maybe not illegal, but it's like, you can be fined for it, or whatever the distinction would be. But yeah, to point it out, it's just, the point is, it is more of the exact same crap that Call of Duty does, but he's trying to market it as though it's an answer to that, and it's the antithesis of it, and it's just literally more of the same. And that's why, like, I get particularly frustrated and, dare I say, triggered when somebody is acting like gamers are stupid or talking to us like we're stupid, and we're not going to notice it. Like, don't piss on my back and tell me it's raining, you know? Oh wait, hold on, where's that? I need to add it to the soundboard. I need to add that one soundbite to the soundboard. This one, you remember?
Don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining. Government.
Don't. Continuing on.
Here, a microtransaction worth $80 for some cosmetics. Obviously, this is not good, and Ian could again have just addressed this in an apology and said, my bad, we'll fix it, it's now halved, problem solved, no worries. But instead, he took to social media to record an off-the-cuff video blaming the $80 bundle and other monetization issues that the game has on an ex-developer who he specifically mentions came from Call of Duty.
And essentially,
again, finding any and all opportunities to pivot and avoid responsibility. Like, every opportunity, it's not my fault, it's this other guy, or it's us, it's we, it's the team. It's like, it's ridiculous. And again, I'm sorry, maybe this is not a big deal. Where I'm from, in my neck of the woods, people see you wearing AirPods Max, they're like, ooh, bougie, you must be rich. So it's another like optical thing where it's like, are you trying to flex on me, your fancy headset? Like, it's just, the whole thing starts to just feel weird. The whole thing feels weird. We don't take too kindly to Apple AirPods Maxes. No, we're a Sony Echo. I don't remember what they're called. I have those Sony headphones, the noise canceling ones for flights. They're very good. It's like they got the ridiculous name. It's like XF5000FGH or whatever. I don't remember what they're called, but they're very, very good. They're very good. Whether you're Apple or Android, get those Sony headphones. They're very good. Anyway.
Happened is our former head of monetization, who happened to come from Call of Duty.
A complete.
What do you mean though? He's former. He's a former employee. So he doesn't work there? Why is it still priced like that? You're in charge of the whole thing. Like again, oh, the WH1000XM6s. See what I mean with the names? Like what are we doing? The WXM 500,000 FMXLTs. I think Tasers is the actual name, but the fact that I can't tell the difference, I think says everything you need to know. Yeah, it's those. They're very good headphones. You should get them. Much better than the AirPods Maxes. I've used those. I've had a pair of AirPods Maxes back in the day. I got them when I was cold calling in real estate because the microphone sounded fancier, according to my boss. He's like, it's an investment. It's a good one. They're not bad headphones, honestly. They're genuinely pretty good. But when you wear them, people are like, oh, you're rich. You're bougie. And when you're trying to argue that it's not your fault that you have a $145 microtransaction in your game, maybe it's not the time to wear your Rolex watch. Maybe it's not the time to wear the fancy headset. Maybe it's the time to show up in a t-shirt and just be like, sorry guys. You know, it's just a bad look. We're not greedy. Sorry. You know, it's just a bad look. It's just a bad look.
Completely unnecessary detail that nobody cares about and never needed to be mentioned except to fuel this sort of one-sided competition in his mind.
It is also, yeah, the Call of Duty thing is funny because it's like he added that because he thought it would help him deflect. So like, oh no, you're good, man. The $145 microtransaction, you're good. You're good. It's Call of Duty's fault after all. It's like, no, you did that though. It was you, not Call of Duty. You did that thing.
I mean, at this point, he might as well just record videos of himself getting up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, shadow boxing an imaginary ghost of Call of Duty in his bedroom, shouting about how they're attacking him and they're in his dreams coming to get him. Call of Duty has nothing to do with this game. He hired somebody who worked on the game, allegedly. They made some decisions that he should have been overseeing as the CEO of the company.
And bear in mind, as CEO of the company, he hired that guy as their like head of monetization or whatever. If you have such a problem with Call of Duty, why did you hire the monetization guy from Call of Duty? I know why. It's because he wants to become the next Call of Duty. He wants that Call of Duty money. That's why. He doesn't actually hate Call of Duty. He's envious of it.
And then he just throws him under the bus and says, oh, it was this guy's fault and he worked on Call of Duty. As if he was, you know, sabotaging the game on Call of Duty's behalf or something. He was an embedded spy, a double agent, specifically to shut down Splitgate, the game that was never going to do any damage to Call of Duty because Call of Duty players play Call of Duty. They don't play other games typically. And just to be fair, Ian did apologise for using the hat, which to me is the least interesting part of this. It's in poor taste, but not something I specifically care about. It just looked like he was trying to meme, but obviously when you combine it with everything else, it's just incredibly unprofessional. It's overall poor taste.
I just think, again, it's polarizing. Like, why do all corporate suits, why are they all so milquetoast? Why are they all so boring and uninteresting? It's because they want to be as inoffensive as possible. Like, they want Tim Cook to get on stage and talk about how the next iPhone is the best iPhone we've ever made. And they want you to go and buy an iPhone. They don't want him to get up there and be like, just saying some super polarizing thing. honestly, we don't think that if you eat beef, you should buy an iPhone. You can get bent. Like, of course, they're not going to do that. He's going to go up there, do the bare minimum to piss anybody off, and sell his product because that's literally his job. It's literally his job. His job is not to like be super funny, haha. Yeah, Tim Cook. Androids ain't shit. Can you imagine? I don't even think they're that pretty. I don't think they even look good. And frankly, they smell bad.
And if he just did the hat, if none of this other stuff existed, you know, didn't shit talk his competition, didn't, you know, blame ex-employees that may or may not have worked at Call of Duty for doing things that ultimately he's responsible for as the CEO, I don't think the hat would have been a big deal on social media. I might be wrong. People love to, you know, talk shit about everything and drag people for...
It depends on what you mean by big deal. There still would have been lots of people freaking out about it. Like, you remember that clip that went viral of it was like Cat Girl plays Battlefield 6 or something, and it was somebody playing Battlefield 6, clearly with aimbot turned on. They're like clipping onto people through rocks and walls and stuff, snapping onto them while they aim. And they're just trying to say, ooh, I'm really good at this. I'm really, really good at this. I'm actually really good at the game. They got banned on the game. They got banned on Twitch. And so everybody's like, yeah, see, this is stupid. This is dumb. And then it came out that the person in question is trans. And so now automatically there's people saying that they should get unbanned and that this should not be a scandal. And really, people use aimbot for all sorts of reasons, so it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's like, okay, there's always going to be somebody like arguing both sides. It's the point. Even when somebody is blatantly cheating in a game and streaming it, acting like they're really, really good, there will still be people out there defending it and be like, no, it's actually really good, high skill. You remember the Nadia stuff, dude? Remember the Nadia stuff? That's early in the days of this channel. You remember that? Oh, maybe we should revisit the Nadia stuff. I think we tried to revisit Nadia and the whole Warzone cheating stuff, but it got like kind of sad because Nadia, I think, went on and started doing like OnlyFans stuff. It got sad and it wasn't that funny anymore, so we stopped.
You know, any small reason. But I think the totality of everything just made the guy seem like a bit of a clown and resulted in more social media flogging. That all being said, I'm not delusional, as far as I'm aware, maybe, I guess. But if Splitgate 2 launched and was an absolute banger of a video game, there is literally nothing that I've said in this video or that has happened with the company, the CEO, that would change anything about the game's success, right? If this game was good enough, if it was truly the future of FPS games, if it was going to make the FPS genre great again, whatever the fuck that means, he could walk out on stage, having paid the 500 grand, with his whole ass on display, assless chaps, stand on stage for the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds making duck noises, and then open a sealed Call of Duty box and shit in it, and nobody would care because the game would be good enough.
Well, I mean, it's funny because there is somebody who does marketing in a similar way as that. Some of you might know where I'm going with this. A controversial guy who wanted to do some promotion for his company during a very large event known as the Super Bowl. And so he paid millions of dollars for the slot. And while he was at the dentist...
Spent like all the money for the commercial on these new teeth. So, once again, I had to shoot it on the iPhone. Go to Easy.com.
that ad, if that was at the Game Awards, that would actually be like, I think it would do well. Because it's just ridiculous and memorable, okay? I think this whole thing with Splitgate was just frankly trying too hard. You know, sometimes if you honestly are just like, I was gonna do a trailer, but we spent all the money on buying this slot so Jeff could buy another boat. So I guess I'll read some poetry, and like that's what you do on stage. That could be genuinely hilarious, but you just gotta own it.
people would just look past it. You know, if a product's good enough, nobody cares about the noise. It's only when the product isn't fun, the people don't like the thing, that they start focusing on stuff like this. There would be some people talking, there would be some people laughing, there would be some people bringing this up, but they were never going to play the game in the first place. It's basically only that the game isn't good enough, that there's an opportunity for this narrative to even exist. You could make a video about this and point to it and say, this guy made the game fail with his actions. But in reality, he just, you know, helped a failing game to fail more with a bit more of a funny story about it. As it stands, though, with the product being what it is, you essentially have a CEO's actions and a game's poor performance, and you can add one and one together here and say, this is his fault. And ultimately, he did make the game, so it definitely is. But the easy narrative is that this social media stuff made the game fail, which is certainly a more interesting story than just the game's not that great. Which is really...
Yeah, I think the idea of launching a battle royale in 2025, even if it's got some unique gameplay elements, it just never was gonna work. Like, you were literally 5 years too late. It just doesn't make sense. So the concept itself was flawed. It's the same thing with like Concord. It's why when people are like, Concord failed because of bad character designs, I'm like, that was a piece of the puzzle, sure. But it failed because it was ultimately a game that nobody wanted in a genre that was oversaturated already at a premium price point. And it just was a bad product. It just was bad, you know? The character designs didn't help, but like if they had super sexy characters in Concord, would it have magically made that game successful? I don't think so. Yeah, and Marvel Rivals was right next to it, about to launch, and had everything else going for it, you know? So it's just, I don't think things are as monolithic or you know, unidimensional as it often gets boiled down to, but it's pretty common. I mean, people will boil things down into their component parts and then focus on the clearest point that they can reference. But in this case, I mean, I think Splitgate 2, it was a concept that just didn't make sense from the start. And then I think the game itself, from what I've heard, I didn't try it, but the game itself seems to have been pretty solid. I mean, Splitgate 2 specifically, it seems to be pretty solid. It just was a concept nobody really asked for. And then it's built on a gimmick, so it's also already going to have a limited lifespan. And so it was never really going to work.
Really weird when you look at what Splitgate 1 did. That game peaked at 67,000 players with less money, less time, no marketing. And then you look at Splitgate 2, paid, you know, millions of dollars in not only the Summer Games Fest trailer and presentation, but also some of the biggest content creators, streamers, whatever it's going to be on the planet were paid money to play this game, to talk about this game, to give reviews of this game. They had a billboard in Times Square, the NASDAQ billboard showing the game. They spent millions on this, and they managed to get 25,000 players concurrent. Not only that, but the game has died faster than the first one. So really, in making a sequel, they've killed the first game and any chances of that coming back. Probably killed the second game unless they have some kind of like miraculous recovery at some point, which I'm not going to rule out, but you know, it seems unlikely, especially because they're still focusing on things that casual players, you know, use as a gimmick, have fun with for a week and then never play the game again. And to be honest, I don't think they have, you know, a crazy runway of money to continue doing this, because who's going to invest in a game now that's had 2 bites at the apple, has spent millions of dollars on marketing, and less than 2 months after release, they have less than 1,500 concurrent players.
Yeah, and at some point you also have to ask and question the judgment of the executive team. Like, thank you, G Cams. Thank you for the sub over on Twitch. Thank you, my friend. At some point, you do have to question their judgment when they're renting and paying for a billboard in Times Square. Like, at some point, return on investment has to be a question, right? Like, at some point, you got to be like, why did you spend money on that? That doesn't make sense. Who is like in Times Square being like, oh yes, going walking around on vacation? Oh, Splitgate 2. Ah, that's my next obsession. Sorry, Deborah, we're ending the vacation early. We have to get home. I must play. Like, nobody's doing that. Nobody's doing it. It's just a weird choice, man.
On the game daily, at least on Steam. There will be more on consoles, But as a trend, you know, you can use trend data of population to see the game's probably not doing all too well in other places also. Not just that, but in an almost unprecedented and hilarious turn of events, they're pulling what I like to call an Amazon Game Studios, and they've essentially unreleased the game, going from Splitgate 2 is now here to Splitgate 2 is kind of here, but now we're calling it a beta instead, while at the same time...
Yeah, dude, literally unreleasing it. Lord Grimm, also thank you for the sub. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, I wasn't really aware that you could fully go back to beta, but they are. We believe in Splitgate 2. This game means everything to us. It's been our life for almost 10 years, starting in our dorm room, and we're more committed than ever to delivering the incredible experience you deserve. We've heard your feedback. We agree with you. We launched too early. We had ambitious goals with Splitgate 2, and in our excitement to share it with you, we bit off more than we could chew. We rushed certain features, made some boneheaded mistakes, and most importantly, we didn't give you the polished, portal-filled mayhem you fell in love with. So we're going back to beta. We'll be heads down until early next year, rebuilding major parts of the game to capture the spirit of what made Splitgate special. That means reworking progression from the ground up, adding more portals to our maps, simplifying monetization, refocusing on classic game modes you've been asking for, and more. We'll share more soon. Literally doing a Control-Z, man. Beta!
Time shutting down official servers for the first game. Now, obviously, only time will tell if this game can pull out of the nosedive. It hasn't helped that the CEO has seemingly gone out of his way to give the game terrible PR, and to make the game audience, you know, the wider audience, think that he's an unprofessional clown who can only market his game by tearing down his betters. But realistically, if they can make Splitgate 2 into something that people want to play, it will find an audience. Nobody cares about the noise at the end of the day if the product's good enough. I think focusing so much on a skill ceiling mechanic that is unique to the genre is a cool party trick, a few minutes in the sunshine, but overall it's going to be the death of the game if it isn't kept in check. For as much hate as modern FPS titans like Halo and Call of Duty receive, they focus on fundamentals that translate across the shooter genre for decades. And that's, you know, minor differences to what they're doing, but they rely on mostly common sense mechanics. It's part of what makes them as popular as they are, because casuals can pick them up, play, have fun, and then move on to the next one, and it's mostly the same game with a different bit of flavor and flair. Advanced mechanics can work in games when it can maintain its own player base, but Splitgate has 6 years of evidence that theirs can't, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is their last financial opportunity to get it right. After all, people aren't going to keep throwing good money after bad, and I can't imagine the game's making a ton of money to support an active development team that's trying to fix the game. Either way, thanks for watching. Check the links down below if you want to support me, suggest video content, anything you want my opinion on, a deep dive on a gaming situation, no matter how old or recent, I guess. And Game subs for a 10% discount on their products. Support me with the link. You get a discount, I get a kickback. Win-win, and I'll see you on the next one.
Booyah! Good video, Kira. That's very good. Kira. Thank you, my friend. That's very good. Very, very good. I think it is a tale as old as time. Unfortunately, for these, I'm also going to share the link to the video in chats real quick so everybody can get over there. But I think it's a tale as old as time, but it's just, for one, not realizing your place, and frankly, getting in and believing your own hype, which unfortunately undoes a lot of people's hard work. And then I also think that a component of it was, of course, chutzpah and overconfidence, cockiness even, and an inability to, I think, accept when there were mistakes made. There's a lot of energy and behavior that seems indicative of like somebody that maybe has a too big a head on their shoulders. Like, again, anytime anything goes wrong, oh, it's the former employee, it's his fault. Oh, we thought this was a good idea. We tried really hard to make this good. Like, it's never his fault. It's always someone else's. It's just, yeah. And then also chasing trends 5 years too late. I mean, you were like, we're going to fix the FPS genre with a battle royale launching in 2025. What? You know, it's a bizarre choice to do that. So, predictable, but we'll see what they do. They do, at this point, let's be honest, they do have a lot of name recognition, so they could totally end up popping off and coming back if they have a lot of things fixed. Like, I don't think it's impossible. but it's going to be a lot of work. They've got name recognition. It's just they don't have a lot of good name recognition, which is more valuable. much more valuable for sure. So yeah, it's a good video though. Very good video.
He took my thing. Red flag.